Spiders were a life form that I shared space with. You know, you get these garden spiders making these massive webs, and I used to watch them from beginning to end, and it was great. You know, watching, you know, he first makes his first line, and then he gets in the middle and drops down and pulls it tight, and then he makes all these extra ones and goes around and around and around and around, does that whole thing. You know, when they're doing the outside edge, you know, they have to run up back and forth, and you know, I used to watch that all the time. Seen it hundreds of times. I don't know if I identified with them or what, but when I was older, you know, I wanted to be somebody special, so that's where I picked the name Spider. So I basically just painted it on the back of a jean jacket and went downtown and staying and hanging out at the pool hall, and I was Spider. So we usually just throw from this position here. It's the most used. That's why I have this thing here in the ground, kind of sets my mark. Well, I was born in October 1965. My mom, she wasn't married, and that was a real bad thing in those days. So she was pretty much forced to give me up for adoption. They didn't really know what to do with me. I was apparently one of these kids that just got into everything and didn't stop and didn't listen and didn't stop and didn't listen. So some professional told them at some point, well, if little Robbie's bad, just put him in his room for a while. And it turned into a lifestyle in the end. So they started segregating me, you know, like they all ate at the table and I ate at the desk by the window. So that was sort of the start of it, and they were locking me in my room in those days, but I was still eating downstairs. In the winter time, if I wasn't locked in my room, I had to stand in the kitchen, and it was kind of like standing in the corner, but I had to stand with my face to the door, and I wasn't supposed to look around to see what was going on. So because I couldn't resist, I was, you know, one of those kids, you know, once again, that's how it started. I wouldn't stop and I wouldn't listen, so they started putting a bag over my head. And I guess at some point she decided that I wasn't getting enough exercise, so I had to start walking on the spot. So imagine I'm a kid in grade 1 or 2, and I'm standing in the kitchen with a bag over my head walking on the spot for hours. You know, I remember having my ear to the bottom of the door because there was a space there, and listening to the TV and following the storyline and, you know, imagining what characters looked like. Remember there was a show, Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, and there was a little jingle, you know, wait till your father gets, until your father gets, wait till your father gets home, and
just wait till your father gets, until your father gets, wait till your father gets home. See what I mean?
When I got out, I remember seeing it on TV, and it was a cartoon, and I was so disappointed because I always had real people. You know, never crossed my mind that it was a cartoon, just didn't think of it, you know. So, but yeah, they lived their life downstairs watching TV and doing whatever they did. Here we're looking for sort of a calmness. serenity, if you will, and grace. I started playing out on the side of the farm property, and one day the old man came out there and he grabbed me and he dragged me out into the forest, and he said, "I don't want to see you. This is where you can play. From now on you can play out here. I don't want to see you all day." So that started this new section in life. Once again, this was before I started kindergarten, and I would get up in the morning, she'd give me breakfast, then she'd give me a lunch, and I remember she would put lemonade in a glass bottle and pack me a lunch, and I'd run out into the forest, and I'd be out in the forest all day until she called me home. And she'd call me home, it would be after dark. So in the summertime, you know, that would be pushing 10 o'clock, so I'd just be out in the bush all day. I didn't have toys, you know, like I said, she used to send me out with my lunch. And so you got sticks and stones and rivers and vines and all these natural things. And I remember standing on the edge of the forest with a stick, and the bats were flying around because I was afraid of bats, and waiting for her to call me home, and it was getting dark. And so from that, you know, you try to sharpen sticks and rocks and whatever. And I don't know, I remember making stone axes very young and tying feathers onto sticks to make spears and this kind of thing. I remember building little dams and creeks, you know, in the little area that I sort of set up for myself, and just doing what you can with sticks. And later on, when we moved to that southwestern town, I wasn't in the forest anymore, but during the day they used to send me out under, they used to call it the Thing. And the Thing was, there was two cinder block walls, and it supported a structure that had feet in it, and you could drive a tractor underneath it and pull the slat boards, and it would fill the wagon up with feed, and you would, so the building wasn't used anymore, so I was supposed to spend time under the Thing. And as long as you knew where the old man was on the farm, you could get around to the back of the Thing and get upstairs, where there was lots of wood and wire and nails and whatever was laying around. You just got to keep the vegetation down around here, eh? It's like always chopping these things, especially when it rains, they all hang over. See, like this guy here, if he was loaded with water after a rainfall, that path there, they're all like right down like that, and then they get in your way. I remember one of the first things I made with wire, I just it was like a little stabber, almost like a knife with a handle and then a pointy thing, and I sharpened it up on the wall and pounded the end flat and made it sharp so I could, because I'm just a little kid, you know, protect myself when it gets dark, you know. Here on this template, they're way higher, they go way up.
Yeah, they go way up into the fender or something, right? I know that too.
Drawing, I learned to draw just by tracing. In my room, I would, they gave me a lot of books. Books were a thing for them to keep me quiet. So I had stuff in my room. I had, you know, farm set and Legos and books and puzzles and, you know, anything that didn't make noise. You know, don't give the kid any noisy toys. People will hear him upstairs. But I remember tracing pictures out of books and learning how to draw that way. So that's sort of how creativity started for me, I suppose. The hood piece, we're going to peel that, and we're going to be floating it on top of here. When I look back on it now, or if I talk to people about it, it's shocking. But at the time, for me, that was normal. So that's just the way it was, and I accepted it. I know, you know, the kids, my brothers and sisters who lived downstairs, who I never talked to, not even once the whole time I lived in the same house. I knew life was different for them, but I didn't know you know, I never questioned why, or why is it this way for me and not for them. You know, I mean, it was just the way it was. So I never really thought about it. It was just accepted as, and even if you would have asked me, you know, when I remember thinking when I went into care, when I got out, I was, at the time, I remember saying, you know, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I thought I was happy. I thought, I didn't think I was, I didn't feel that life was awful, and I didn't feel persecuted. But then one of my counselors one day said to me, listen, Rob, you can't expect me to believe that as a little boy, and that woman treating you like that and slapping you in the face every day, you couldn't expect me to believe that didn't affect you, that was, and you know, I thought, yeah, you're probably right, it probably did affect me. I just sort of adapted and accepted it. I don't know, it's an interesting question. Not too bad. There's no rules here. Well, there are some rules, but not the same kind of rules. The door to my room, it was an old house, so the bottom of the bedroom door was just basically slat wood with one of these Z-shaped, you know, frames that kept it all together. And the bottom of the door was kind of cut on an angle. So at one end by the hinges it was tight, but over here it was open this much. So she didn't want me looking out through that hole or listening at the door, I don't know, whatever. So she always put a box against the door. So she'd always move this box. But when it was cold, she would take the box away and she would put a heater there. So the heater would blow under that space. And I remember one night waking up in the middle of the night because the lock came off, and you could always, you know, that was one of those sounds that was sort of triggering, because in the morning when you unhook it, it would make that sound, and you'd wake up and you'd have to get out of bed and go get your breakfast. So I wake up in the middle of the night because she's opening the lock, and she put a heater at the door and left the door open. Wow. And I got all this warm fuzzy feeling like, whoa, they actually care about me because they're giving me heat, you know. So that was a moment that I remember where I did feel loved, that there was some care at all for me. The rest of the time I was really just an inconvenience, I think. Yeah. And it is so shredded. It used to be pristine like that, and now it's just, you know, isn't that cool? I find this very cool. This is like the passage of time and youth. We got enough to play with. And well, forgiveness is a funny thing. You know, forgiveness is not something you can just pick up. I wanted to. I really wanted to. For years and years, I had this, it was a process, right? So I came to this point where I realized I had been ripped off, and I was bitter, and I was like, they did this to me, and you treated me like this, and I was just a boy, and so on and so on, and I was angry. But then I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be angry. I want to forgive these people. Well, how do I do that? You know, I want to forgive these people, but I can't. I'm just angry. I'm bitter. So that went on for years, and I didn't get it till those. It's almost like quitting smoking, you know. You try, and if it works out, one day you wake up and you realize you're not smoking, but getting there is a different thing. Yeah. My Bible tells me in Ephesians we're to forgive each other as God in Christ forgave us. Let's get the center down and you work one side and I'll work the other side, I guess. It's like molding clay. Well, I've been trying not to use their names. But anyway, what happened with her was she got pancreatic cancer. I went to see my sister after she died, and she had died from pancreatic cancer, and everybody said, oh, she changed. That last year when she got cancer, she was a different woman. And I was like, whatever, you know. And then I saw a picture of her, and my sister had this picture of her, and I'm looking at this picture, and there's this woman, and this is not the woman I knew growing up. I could tell from this picture that this woman was happy, and she was not a happy person. Even when she was pretending to be happy, or, you know, if everyone thought she was happy, that woman was never happy. Not truly. Not in her soul. She never really was happy and at peace. Just wasn't part of her. But in that picture, I could tell that that woman was truly happy. That was a real happiness. And in that moment, it was over for me. Somehow, because that evil person I knew had sort of died and been reborn, I was able to forgive her in that moment. And then with him, I used to visit my two oldest at my aunt's house. I said, I'm visiting the kids at Aunt Janet's, and if you would like to come up and have a chat with me, I'd like to talk to you. Because I hadn't talked to him about any of it. And so he came up that day, and he sat on the back step at Janet's place, and he just fell apart. He was crying, and he was telling me how there wasn't a day went by he didn't regret it, and he just didn't know, once it started and got to a certain point, he didn't know what to do, and it was real. You know, it wasn't fake. The guy was genuinely regretful. He was genuinely remorseful, and I was able to forgive him that day. So those things changed me, because forgiveness, being in a state of forgiveness is much different than being in a state of bitterness. You know, like, it's night and day. So I have to be grateful that was given to me. I love nature, you know, and this is, it's got an okay feel, you know. Yeah. Who says 55 can't be fun? Well, this tree is as long as I've been married right now, which is, I don't know, what are we, 18, 19 years, something like that? Solid oak, baby. Ah, good show. That's fresh salad, buddy.
I don't know.
You're too heavy.
I just look at them now as, you know, it made me who I am. I'm happy with who I am. I mean, I understand my faults. I understand people. I think growing up like that and reading her every eye movement, that I tend to be a very discerning when it comes to other people. I sense, you know, I'm kind of empathic, you might say. So to me, I'm not bitter about it now. I have to look positively at it. I have to look at it as it made me who I am, and it made me unique. It made me have skills that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I'm okay with that. You know, sure, it could have been different. It could have been better. But I think there's lots of kids who grow up with everything in life and are totally miserable. It all turned out okay in the end. I can't complain.